In the 1960s, music was a reflection of the social, cultural, and political changes that were shaking the world. It was in this context that one of the most iconic groups of the era emerged, the Mamas and the Papas. With their unique vocal harmonies and songs that seemed to capture the spirit of a generation, they became a musical phenomenon. However, behind their success was a story full of triumphs, but also tragedies, conflicts, and a very high price to pay for fame. This is the sad story behind the success of the Mamas and the Papas. Before you start this video, remember to subscribe and like it. It all started with John Phillips, a talented and charismatic musician who dreamed of achieving fame. John already had experience in the folk scene when he met Michelle Gilliam, a beautiful and ambitious young woman who would soon become his wife. Together, they were part of a group called the New Journeymen, but it wasn't until they crossed paths with Cass Elliot and Denny Doherty that the magic began to happen. Cass, with his powerful voice and vibrant personality, and Denny, with his charisma and vocal talent, completed the formula that would bring the Mamas and the Papas to life. The group was formed in 1965, at the height of the counterculture in California. John Phillips, the undisputed leader, was the creative brain behind the songs. It was he who composed California Dreamin', one of the group's biggest hits, and a song that would become a generational anthem. The song, with its melancholy and longing for a better place, resonated with millions. Soon, the Mamas and the Papas were on everyone's lips, and their debut album, If You Can Believe Your Eyes and Ears, catapulted them to fame. But behind the lights and the applause, there was a much more complicated reality. Success came quickly, and with it, tensions began to surface. John and Michelle Phillips were the perfect couple on stage, but their marriage was far from ideal. John was controlling and at times manipulative, while Michelle, young and beautiful, attracted stares wherever she went. Denny Doherty, the group's other male vocalist, couldn't help but fall in love with her. What followed was a love triangle that shook the foundations of the group. Cass Elliot, meanwhile, was the soul of the Mamas and the Papas. Her voice was unmistakable, and her personality was as big as her talent. However, Cass struggled with her self-esteem. In an industry that valued physical appearance, she felt marginalized by her weight. Despite being one of the most talented voices of her generation, Cass often felt invisible, especially when it came to John Phillips, who seemed to look down on her. This created additional tension within the group, as Cass began to feel left out and unappreciated. Meanwhile, the excess-filled lifestyle of the 60s began to take its toll. Drugs, endless partying, and the pressure to maintain success took its toll on all members of the group. John Phillips, in particular, became increasingly dependent on drugs, which affected his ability to lead and compose. Recording became more difficult, and arguments between group members became more frequent. Despite everything, they managed to release more hits, such as Monday, Monday and Dedicated to the One I Love. But the initial magic was beginning to fade. If you are liking the video, remember to subscribe and leave your like. In 1968, after only 3 years together, the Mamas and the Papas split up. The decision was not surprising, given the climate of tension and conflict that surrounded them. Cass Elliot was the first to leave, tired of feeling underappreciated and dealing with the toxic dynamics within the group. Without Cass, the heart and soul of the Mamas and the Papas, it was impossible to maintain the essence that had made them so special. Although they tried to continue for a while, they eventually decided to split up. The split not only marked the end of a musical era, but also the beginning of a dark chapter for its members. For Cass, leaving the group was liberating, but also painful. Although she sought to reinvent herself as a solo artist, she always carried with her the burden of not feeling fully valued in the Mamas and the Papas. On the other hand, John Phillips, once the charismatic frontman, plunged into a spiral of self-destruction. His drug addiction not only affected his career, but also his personal relationships, including his already fractured marriage to Michelle. The group that had once been a symbol of harmony and creativity had become a reminder of broken dreams and missed opportunities. For Denny Doherty, the split was equally difficult. Although he tried to move forward with musical projects, he never managed to capture the magic of his days with the Mamas and the Papas. Michel, meanwhile, found some success in acting, but also faced the emotional aftermath of a failed marriage and a career that, while brilliant, was marked by John's shadow. Each of them carried with them the scars of an experience that brought them together and at the same time tore them apart. After the group disbanded, each member went their separate ways, but none of them managed to replicate the success they had had together. Cass Elliot launched a solo career and had some successes, but was never able to completely escape the shadow of the Mamas and the Papas. In addition, he continued to struggle with his health and self-esteem. In 1974, Cass tragically died of a heart attack in London. He was only 32 years old. His death shocked the music world and left an indelible void in the hearts of his bandmates. John Phillips, for his part, fell into a spiral of drug addiction that almost ended his life and career. Although he attempted a resurgence in the 1980s, he never regained the glory of his days with the Mamas and the Papas. Michelle Phillips, after divorcing John, turned to acting and had a relatively successful career, but also faced her own demons. Denny Doherty, although he continued to sing, never managed to stand out as he had done with the group. Despite tragedies and conflicts, the legacy of the Mamas and the Papas lives on. Their music, with its unique vocal harmonies and emotion-filled lyrics, continues to resonate with new generations. Songs like California Dreamin' and Monday are considered timeless classics. In 1998, the group was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, a recognition of their impact on popular music. However, the story of the Mamas and the Papas is also a reminder of the price sometimes paid for fame. Behind the upbeat songs and perfect harmonies, there were real people dealing with real problems: unrequited love, addictions, insecurities, and loss. Their story is a testament to how success can be fleeting, and how sometimes the most beautiful things can be tinged with sadness. So, the next time you listen to California Dreamin', remember that behind that unforgettable tune is a story of broken dreams, complicated loves, and a group of people who, despite it all, managed to leave an indelible mark on music. The Mamas and the Papas were much more than a group. They were a reflection of an era, of its lights and shadows. And although their story has a sad ending, their music lives on, reminding us that sometimes the most beautiful art is born out of pain. As always, if you liked this video, don't forget to subscribe and leave your like. See you in the next video.